Since it opened in 1986, thousands of staff have called 80 George Street home. We have worked in its distinctive office spaces and walked the seemingly never-ending corridors, some 269 metres. We have basked in the expansive rooftop view of the Brisbane CBD and the river across to South Bank. The history of 80 George Street is rich with its people and the work that's been done there. Roger Smith, now a senior project manager in the accommodation office, working as an electrical technician, was one of the first into the new building in 1986.
It was into a nice new modern building, nice view of the Brisbane River, and you can see Expo being, all the buildings being knocked down for Expo 88. Basically you had, you were given a drawing board as your desk, and there's no computers back then.
Planning for 80 George Street has taken many twists and turns over the years, and the history of its development is a colourful one. US architect Walter Nesch brought his new ideas and a video camera to Brisbane in 1974. This is the Brisbane he saw at the time. The Riverside Expressway was under construction, the Victoria Bridge had recently been completed, and South Brisbane remained as it was before Expo. An admirer of the brutalism form of architecture, Nesch was also an advocate of the new field theory logic, which looked at geometric elements in building design. While plans were finalised in 1977, the fate of the heritage buildings on the site, including the Bellevue Hotel, the Mansions and Harris Terraces, remained problematic and unresolved. Finally, in 1983, after a huge public outcry following the Bellevue Hotel's secret demolition at night, Lund, Hutt and Ryan Morton's revised scheme for 80 George Street was approved and building began. The remaining heritage buildings, including the Mansions and Harris Terraces, were retained. Originally known as the State Works Centre, the long, low-rise buildings spanning Margaret Street were very unusual for the time. Most new buildings in Brisbane then were high-rise towers. Vicky Williamson, now in HR, remembers the time vividly.
I used to go out at lunchtime, and especially when I was in the work processing unit at first and when it was first built, and you'd go out at lunchtime and there'd be people taking photos of the building. I think it was because it was state of the art, because it went over Margaret Street and no one had seen that done in Brisbane before. It was a different building, I think, back in those days. It was very open. It wasn't like a rabbit warren like it is now.
Graham Atkins, now Deputy Director General of Public Works and Asset Management, worked on 80 George Street as a young apprentice.
I started working here when I was about a third year apprentice in 1984. First as a site clerk and then as a clerk of works. And my role was to oversee the contractor and the quality of work that they did.
The site had its fair share of problems.
The cladding on the building was pretty topical. All of the pebblecrete, they applied it all, it started to fall off. Contractors probably spent 2 years after the building finished scraping it all off and replacing it. There were probably up to 300 or 400 people on site every day. We had to count them. That was challenging, because they wouldn't stay still. One of the funniest moments, I think, was when we were still finalising things during the defects period after staff and the minister of the day had then moved in. I got urgently summoned up to the minister's office where he was sitting with his secretary, and there was this noise of music booming through his office, and his comment was he really enjoyed the pipe music but it wasn't quite his genre. And it turned out that way down the other end of the building a plumber was working on the roof and he had a radio going in the gutter and it was echoing through all the downpipes.
As the first internal auditor for the then Works Department in 1989, Assistant Director General of Corporate Services Robin Turbot has many fond memories of the building.
It's been over 25 years of my working life that I've actually been in this building. So a lot of memories, a lot of changes in my career during that time. So yeah, a lot of affection for the building. I've always felt it's been a very warm building from the day I sort of walked in to the, on level 3 downstairs. I actually remember the first day I walked in, and I still have the same feeling every day I walk in, if I walk in through that door. It's just a nice building to be in.
Originally located on the Gold Coast in 1995 as regional architect, Don Rivers, now Deputy Director General of Building Industry and Policy, has spent the last 17 years at 80 George Street.
When I was doing my architecture course and getting an idea of how to design buildings that front river frontages like the Brisbane River, the design philosophy was that you, at that point in time, that you didn't build high-rise buildings right on the banks of a river. One of the key design features was that the building wouldn't overpower the surrounding Parliament House, Queensland Club, the mansions and Harris Court. So it was designed so that the height of the building matched the parapet height of the adjoining Parliament House building.
Within the walls of 80 George Street, history has been made. Many landmark projects and services started their life in the building.
A huge number of projects were designed, documented and managed out of 80 George Street. Very significant buildings, and they included things like a lot of the tertiary teaching hospitals and hospitals right across the state. The Supreme and District Court, Magistrates Court, just to name a few.
For many staff, 80 George Street is the keeper of vivid memories.
The bump on the floor on floor 7, I think that stands out for everybody. It's just one of those quirky things of the building. It's very strange because it was built for Public Works, which is, you know, the building people, and we build a building with a bump in the middle of a floor.
After Expo 88 finished, we ended up with that statue of the guy with the drill down the front there. I think he's missing some parts now, because I'm sure there used to be other parts with that, with that statue. I remember coming in sometimes there'd be McDonald's burgers in his hand.
This year marks 30 years since 80 George Street opened. It also marks the end of an era.
It was certainly the building age back in the 90s for us, and now with housing with it, it's almost ending its career with building in respect of the housing strategy. Like still doing really good things for the community. So I think I'll always remember that about what happened in the building during the time that I was here.
I've got some very good memories of 80 George Street, particularly with the people that I've been able to work with. But I'm also excited to see what the new precinct design and the outcomes will be for this part of the city in particular, and to drive Brisbane into the future.